Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not baking much for my family? I, 16 male, started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago. I also got super into baking around that time. I bake a lot. My girlfriend loves desserts. So I've given her a ton of stuff I bake, all kinds of different stuff. I often try to bake something new and then she gets to try something new. I honestly love baking way more than eating it. My girlfriend is the opposite. Well, recently she gave me a scrapbook she made. She accounted everything I baked her apparently, and she gave me this scrapbook after I baked her 100th dessert. It was filled with a picture of every dessert I've baked and pictures of me baking and her eating. She wrote a paragraph about each item I baked. Each item was dated too. She had been working on this for 2 years. She also wrote me a long letter about how proud she is of my baking hobby, thanking me for the sweets and telling me how much she loves me. It was the sweetest gift I've ever gotten, and I honestly cried. I showed my mom and sister, expecting them to think it was cute, but they were peed. They were angry I've spent so much time baking for my girlfriend and not them. I just got into this habit, and I love making my girlfriend happy as well, since she loves desserts. I mean, I don't think that you're an a-hole for not making it for your family. Like, I make all kinds of stuff for my partner that I don't make for the rest of my family. But I guess the idea comes from the fact that you're 16, so you're, I assume, still living at home with your mom and sister. And most of the time, most baking recipes produce a number of baked goods that could very easily be shared amongst a number of people. And so the idea that you might make, a dozen cookies and then just give them all to your girlfriend and for yourself and not even share like one or two, with your mom and sister, I don't think it makes you an a-hole. Maybe slightly inconsiderate, but you're a teenager, you're in love, I don't know. I don't think I'd be peed off if I was them. I don't think I'd call you an a-hole, but I would suggest, I don't know, if you're baking sweets, for, one person that you love, why not make sure there's just at least a little bit extra for some other people that you love? Honestly, when I make stuff, I love to share as much as I can. I even sometimes phone my neighbors and be like, hey, I got a whole bunch extra of this thing that I made. Would you like any? I don't know. Sharing's fun. Story 2. Woman wants me to let her cook her child alive. So, summer of 2017, I worked as a lifeguard at the local water park. At the time, I was 17 and thought that it would be fun to work there. There are lots of crappy things that have happened and lots of stupid people, but this one has stuck with me the most. We had several water slides and a hot tub, which was particularly popular due to the weather averaging in the 70s. We had several safety rule signs posted around the hot tub stating things like, no more than 10 minutes at a time, no more than 30 people in the tub, no children under age 6 in the tub, etc. The last one was often the cause of parents getting upset because their child was freezing and just wanted to warm up. We would allow children 6 and under to sit on the edge and put their feet in the hot tub, but due to the county health department rules, we weren't allowed to let them be in the tub completely. Enter entitled parent. It was early on a Friday morning just after open, so about 10 o'clock, and there were maybe 6 families in the park. No wait times and no small children in the kiddie pool. This lady walks up to the hot tub and starts getting in, babe in arms. I guessed by sight this child was 2-ish. I reminded the lady of the rule, but that she could place her child on the edge with feet in the water if she liked. Shortly after, I look back over at the lady, and not only was her child not on the side of the tub, her child was completely submerged in the water, which was another rule you couldn't put your head under. So I rushed over to her and her child to check on the child, and she quickly scooped her child out of the water and placed her on the side of the pool, all well within sight. I said to her, ma'am, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the hot tub if I see you place your child in the water again. She snapped back at me, don't call me ma'am, I'm probably the same age as you. Anyway, what's it to you if my child and I say it's okay, then it's okay? I responded, I'm sorry, but since I don't know your name, that's what I thought would be appropriate to call you. As much as I would like to let you decide what temperature water is okay for your child, it's part of my job to enforce the rules. And that particular one isn't even created by my employer, but rather the county health department. She scoffed, then said, "Sure it is." She rolled her eyes and walked toward the other side of the hot tub. Shortly after she got out of the hot tub, walked up to one of my coworkers, asked something, then went to the office to speak with my boss. A few minutes later, my boss came to me and said, "The lady just complained to me that you were rude to her. Want to tell me what happened?" So I explained that I noticed that she wasn't following our rules and had brought her toddler into the hot tub regardless of my warnings. My boss was totally understanding and said, "Yeah, that's what I thought. She tried to tell me that you had called her kid a little crap and you called her fat. She said she wanted you fired and free tickets to the park. I told her I'd reprimand you and we'd look into what happened. I just came over here to make it look like I was giving you a talking to." I am angry that that is where this story ends, because frankly, this story should end with, "and then the manager went over to her and kicked her out of the park permanently." Like, seriously, lying about that stuff and making this crap up, why do people have to do that? Like, okay, you felt that the kid was, like, rude to you, so you wanted to go over and be like, "He was being rude to me and trying to make me follow the rules." Blah, 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 blah. Like, fine, do that if you must. But why do you have to lie and make up all this other crap? This is just... Ugh, God, I feel bad for your kid because you're not a very good person. And now that kid is going to get those traits from you. Shape up. Be better. My gosh, why? Just follow the rules. It's not your place. You don't get to decide what the rules are when you go to places. The people are managing that stuff. You follow their rules. It's not that hard. Why do some people have to make this so hard? Story 3. Entitled parent tries to enter my apartment to measure the bedroom. So this happened 3 years ago. I was renting a basement apartment that I loved. My landlords were great, aunt and uncle of my childhood friend, and I lived there for 3.5 years. Halfway through, they told me they wanted to sell the place, but probably not that soon since the husband was working on a commercial ship for 9 months at a time. I just asked them to tell me when they decided to sell. Anyway, 13 to 14 months pass and they decide to start the process. They introduce me to the realtors, everything gets sorted out. Up to this point, everything is going great. Realtors give me 24-hour notice before they bring buyers. I can stay home during the showing or go about my business. I have no complaints about them or my landlords throughout the entire process. Then one day, I just got back from work and didn't feel like going out again. Realtors come with a family of 4 or 5. It was announced, I just forgot, so I decided to stay. Family consisted of a mother, father, adult daughter, and 2 or 3 kids, I can't remember. Father was a piece of work. Now the thing is, I live in a touristy town on the Mediterranean coast. It was summer, people try to pull all sorts of cons here. Entitled father: "I know you said someone lived here, but we hope to stay a couple of days to get a feel for the apartment." Realtor: What? This place isn't for rent. OP already lives here. Entitled father: "Well, I can't buy something just like that, but okay, obviously we can't stay the night." Me: "Sorry, no, you can't. I live here." He moves on, measures things left and right, wondering out loud if their large wardrobe will fit into the bedroom, how he wants to buy an apartment for his daughter because she wants to go to college here. Eventually, they pack up and leave for the beach. I saw them later. The beach was 2 minutes away from the apartment. The next day, there were no scheduled showings, so I decided to do one thing everyone does when they live right next to the beach: take a nap after work. But before my head even hits the pillow, I hear someone coming down the stairs. There were only 2 basement apartments, and my neighbors went away for a week. I get up and go to the door to spy, but before I even make it halfway there, someone rattles the doorknob and then 10 seconds later starts knocking. I was really confused and freaked out. I go to the door and lo and behold, it's entitled father from yesterday. I do not open my door. Me: "Who is it?" "It's me, entitled father. We were here yesterday." "What do you want?" "I want to measure the space in the bedroom to see if my daughter's wardrobe will fit." "No, you're not getting in." "But I can't buy the place if I don't know it's for my daughter." "Then call the realtor. They have all the measurements on file. I'm not letting you in." "Well, I'll buy this place and evict you." "Good luck. I have 3 months left on the lease. You can't do crap about that. My landlords told me that if the place sells before my lease is up, the contract will state I can't be evicted before my lease is up. I already had a place lined up." Entitled father starts cussing out, and I hear him go away. I called landlords and realtor after that. They were all mortified and worried that someone like that just came to my place, tried to let himself in, and threatened to evict me. Entitled father did not buy the apartment after all because landlords refused to even deal with him again. Realtors told him it was sold. To this day, I believe their plan was to find a place to crash at for a few days for a free vacation under the pretext of buying the place for their daughter. I still have to improvise webcams around the apartment to keep an eye on it while I was at work for the remainder of my stay there. I spent the entire summer not feeling safe in my home. That sucks. It sucks when you don't get to feel safe in your own home, because that is like the one place where you should feel perfectly safe and at peace. And to have just weird, creepy, scammy people like that coming in and trying to just open their way in. Like, literally, it's just like, yep, I'm just going to try and click, try the knob, doesn't even knock first. No, like, I mean, who knows exactly what he was up to, but it doesn't sound like he was on the up and up, that's for sure. So, yeah, I don't even have much more to say about it. Just, sometimes, sucky people gonna suck. Story 4. Mother thinks she has rights to my child and treats him like a doll to show off. Honestly, I just need a place to vent. My mother is the entitled parent in this story. She and I have never had a great relationship. She resented me growing up because she was a single mom and never wanted children. She would never spend time or engage with me and would instead throw money at me to show she cared. Now I'm grown up and independent and just had a baby of my own, and she feels entitled to my son. I have made certain decisions about his upbringing that I'm trying to adhere to. Nothing crazy, just trying to avoid using unnecessary products on him. No baby lotion, no diaper cream unless he gets a rash, homemade baby food, etc. He's now 4 months old, and it's been working well for us. My mother is very insistent that she gets to see him 2 to 3 times a week. She refers to herself as Glamma, a mix of glam and grandma, and has already procured a few items that say, best grandma ever. I've been very hesitant to let her watch him for extended periods of time. I didn't have the best upbringing and honestly believe she would not do what's best for my son. She's always been a very materialistic person and extremely concerned about the image she presents to other people. So I get anxious thinking of him staying overnight at her place. She keeps asking for him to spend the night, saying she's doing it for me because I need the sleep. But I know it's because she likes the novelty of having a baby around. She first started asking for him to spend the night at her place when he was 2 weeks old. I have said no every time. When she was first allowed to babysit him, I had to set ground rules because she kept trying to plan parties whenever he was over. She was trying to show him off to all her friends and neighbors. The thing is, he is a baby. Large groups of people are not good for babies because their immune systems are weak, and our city has had a number of measles outbreaks. I had to tell her repeatedly that she couldn't be inviting groups of strangers over to pass him around like a doll. She finally agreed, and I let him spend a few hours at her place. Still, she kept asking for him to spend the night. She also calls me every day asking when he's going to visit her again and offering to take him off my hands for a few days like he's an inconvenience. My husband had to go to BC for a wedding, so I was alone for a week. It was hard. 6 days into it, and I was at the end of my rope. I had barely had any adult interaction and had only slept 3 hours a day, so I call my mother up and ask her if my son and I can spend the night at her place. I needed sleep, but I didn't want to leave him there without me all night. I figured this would be a good compromise. I would be available if anything went wrong, and she would get off my back about him staying over. She had been nagging me for weeks about how I should give him pablum and he would sleep through the night. He was a preemie, and our pediatrician said to wait for solids, but she thought she knew best. I'd constantly tell her not to feed him anything but his milk. The night came when I was supposed to go to her place. I get there, and there are 15 other people over. Turns out she was having a dinner party. Whether or not she had this arranged before I asked to come over, I don't know. I told her my son goes to bed at 8, and you really needed to sleep. She assured me everyone would be gone by 9. That didn't happen. They ended up starting a bonfire, and she's trying to get me to sit by the fire with my son. I tell her I don't want him around all that smoke. He's only 4 months old. So he needs to stay in the house. Besides, it's 8 and he needs to go to bed. She tells me I'm being unreasonable and should just let him sleep by the fire. I put my foot down and say no. He ends up in his bassinet, and I'm waiting for the party to be done so I can sleep. Because my husband has been gone and I've been dealing with the baby on my own for 6 days, my sleep schedule has been completely out of whack. I was hoping to take some sleeping pills to get a good night's rest since she was going to watch him through the night. So now I'm waiting for her to come in and take over for me. 10 rolls around and she pops in for a drink before heading back out. I ask her how late the party is going to go since I'm desperate to get some sleep. She tells me it should be over soon, again, and that she can't stay in the house because she has guests over and she needs to entertain them. 10:45 comes and she's still at the bonfire. Again, she comes in to grab something and she sees that I'm still up. She tells me I'm being silly and should just go to sleep. She doesn't seem to understand that I have insomnia and I need to take sleeping pills and can't do that until someone else can watch my son. Then the someone being her, since I asked and she offered. I reminded her that I was there to sleep and was waiting on her. She then tells me I'm being ungrateful since she had this party planned and she couldn't just ask everyone to leave. She said I should just go to sleep and not worry about my son so much. I tell her she can't be taking care of him if she's outside. She wouldn't even hear him if he woke up. She said I should stop stressing that people will leave soon and went back to her party. 11:30 comes around and I'm so tired I start crying. I can't sleep and I wasn't getting the help I asked for. I decided to just take my son and go home. If I was doing it on my own, I'd rather be around my own things and in my own bed. I packed him up and sent her a text saying she was too preoccupied to watch my son and that we were going home. She didn't even see my message until 12:30. Well, how could she have watched him if she didn't leave her bonfire until then? I ended up getting a string of messages saying it was unfair of me to take him away, that I shouldn't say she didn't care because she spent $700 on him that day, so obviously she cared. I never mentioned anything about her caring or not caring. She said I was being ungrateful because if I'd stayed, I would have been able to sleep in the morning while she took care of him. I don't trust for 1 minute that she would have done right by him. Her guests were taking up all her time. A week goes by and she asks twice again if she can stay the night at her place. I have no faith in her watching him overnight, but I agree to let her watch him during the day, Saturday. She says she's going to sleep in, but should pick him up around 9 or 10. 11 rolls around and I haven't heard from her. I give her a call and she says she just got home and that they can't pick him up until later, so I should just drop him off at her place. She was supposed to pick him up because she lives 30 minutes out of town on an acreage, but drives right past our house when she goes shopping. I tried telling her it's too inconvenient to drive him to her place, I'll just keep him with me. But she wears me down, and I eventually make the drive out to her place. I tell her I'll pick him up in the evening around 9:30 or 10. At 5, I get a text from her saying she's decided to have a bonfire and has invited a bunch of people over. Seriously, the exact same thing as the week before. And tell her again I don't want my son sitting out in the hot sun or hanging around the smoke from the fire. I tell her I don't care what she does, but I will pick up my son if she can't watch him. She tells me she is watching him and that I don't need to take him. I went to get him and I was peed off. I have asked her time and again not to have him around groups of strangers, but to have him around smoke, and she just won't listen. I didn't or even want to send him to her place, but she just kept nagging that she would watch him. So I planned my day around him being with her and then had to cancel a D&D game in the middle of the session because she couldn't respect my wishes. When I pick him up, she starts yelling that I'm being ungrateful. She was doing a great job watching him and how much all her guests are loving him. She tells me that I'm unreasonable and rude. To top it off, she tells me that she's going to tell my Baba about my behavior and that Baba will give me a talking to. What the F, woman? I should have known better than to try and trust her. She insists on babysitting my dog every weekend. He has pancreatitis and can't eat fatty food. He gets extremely sick, but she ignores me when I say this and continues to feed him bacon because he likes it. If she can't take care of a dog, how the hell did I think she could take care of a child? And the worst is how she keeps acting like a victim, saying I'm treating her unfairly. Man, I really needed to get this off my chest. Hoster, I hate to say it, but your mother is one of the more selfish people I've ever heard of in my life. She is completely and totally self-absorbed. She doesn't, as you said, she doesn't seem to even actually care about your kid and also your dog, which makes me angry too, but just wants him around to show off, but when she offers to watch him, makes no real efforts to. She is all about herself and having her own great time at doing whatever she thinks is fun and good for her. So fine, let her do that by herself. Seriously, folks, there is nothing wrong with going no contact with a parent like that. Until they get their crap sorted, be like, nope, we are done. You don't have to take their calls. You don't have to deal with them. You have no obligation to this person whatsoever to let them watch your kid or be in your life if they're going to be like that. You have to think about your kid, and you're right. Like, I'm sure folks will have their arguments like, oh, a baby being around a fire is fine or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's the mother's choice. That is what she wants for her child, and her mother is completely ignoring her, not listen. And being around all the other people in a town that's had measles outbreaks before this baby is old enough to get a vaccine and stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry, but, Grandma is not being so grand. She's being a real, a-hole. She's just being an a-hole. I was going to think of something clever, but I got nothing. She's just as selfish. Oh, I almost said a worse word. Video over. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.